Welcome, everybody. I'm Damon Finch, the Northeast Regional Director of the National African Gun Association, also the president of Hudson Valley Nubian Gun Club, also the co-founder of Hudson Valley Nubian Gun Club. We've created this Zoom meeting out of New York State to really talk about what's going on in New York. But before we get into that message, I just want to introduce this panel of speakers, some movers and shakers of the National African Gun Association out of New York. We're going to start off with Mr. Wayne Francis. Wayne, tell us who you are.
Hello, good evening, all. My name is Wayne Francis, and I serve as the president and one of the co-founders of Downstate, New York, Diasporans Firearms Club, located out of New York City, primarily focused on the Long Island area.
Hey, Chris Goodwin.
Chris Goodwin, co-founder and vice president of Diasporans Firearms Club.
Great. Gahiji.
Yes, good evening, rather. My name is Gahiji Manderson. I am co-founder and vice president of the Hudson Valley Nubian Gun Club, located in upstate New York, Newburgh.
Okay. Mr. Hunter.
Good evening, Gino Hunter. I'm the first VP of Soul Society Firearm Club, a new club that was formed earlier this year, which serves Westchester, Rockland, Bronx, and Harlem.
Okay, Mr. Soto.
How you doing? Good evening, everyone. I'm Juan D. Soto. I'm an attorney for the club based out of Manhattan, New York.
Okay, Mr. Wright.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Damon Wright. I'm the second VP of Soul Society Firearms Club and co-founder.
Okay, Mr. Lambert, are you there?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Donovan Lambert, president of Soul Society Firearms Club. I'm actually gonna have to jump off. I'm at an event, but I'm gonna try to just listen in. So I won't be able to converse, but I'll try to listen what's going on.
Okay, great. We really appreciate everybody for taking your time and jumping on this Zoom meeting. And we just want to take this opportunity because there's a lot of questions as to what's happening in New York State regarding the Supreme Court decision that just came down, as a matter of fact, a few hours ago. And instead of me speaking as a layperson, I just figured, or we figured, let's have an open conversation, see what each of our basic interpretations of that decision is, and just have a discussion about opportunities that may avail itself or really be able to explain to some of the people of what this is all about. Without further ado, Juan Soto, if you don't mind, can you give us a somewhat of interpretation of what that decision is?
It is exactly what we thought it was going to be, for the most part, if you followed the case and the construction of the court. It's simply, in layman's terms, changes the burden of proof from the applicant to the government, to the state, or to the issuer of a concealed carry license in New York State. The history of New York State for over a century has been proper cause, the standard of which the applicant must show why they should be granted a concealed carry license. The Supreme Court has since overturned that and found it unconstitutional. And therefore, in the coming months, New York State is going to have to come up with different regulations that complies with the opinion of Justice Thomas for the issuance of a concealed carry license. It's definitely one of the more groundbreaking decisions focusing on the Second Amendment since Heller and since McDonald. And it's not over yet. There's going to be a lot more litigation going forward. Obviously, the decision, 135 pages with concurrent opinions and dissents, is very nuanced, but overall, the time in which New York State would carte blanche put the burden on the applicant to show why they should indeed be granted a concealed carry license is over. The question is now going to be what regulations are put in place. New York State, the governor, New York City, the mayor, the police department have been preparing for this. The governor is going to be calling a special session soon to try to figure out what are going to be the new regulations. But in essence, it is a total game changer, and the burden of proof, so to speak, has now been shifted.
You know, one of the conversations that I've had with various people over the years, and this is really for everybody, was on just the fact that a politician, whether it's a sheriff or a judge or you know, some type of elected official, generally not from that neighborhood, decides who's allowed to have a pistol permit or not. That individual decides on whether or not they qualify or have a need to actually have that tool to protect themselves or their family. And based off of their economic situation, based off of who they knew. I remember a conversation, someone saying that they wasn't able to get a pistol permit because because they said they had too much police interaction. They wasn't convicted, but the fact that they've been questioned too many times by the police, they were denied their pistol permits. What are you guys' thoughts on the opportunities that present themselves now that it obviously they're going to be working through the spider web of making this totally legal? But what are your thoughts on the opportunities that may present themselves regarding this?
Well, I could speak from the standpoint of the importance of ensuring that we're putting ourselves in a position to be able to train and educate people on what it means to conceal carry. The notion of it is one thing, and then the practice of it is another, right? So we as a firearm club want to ensure that we're taking the legal, responsible owners out there, or the people that intend to acquire firearms, to be able to put them in a position to get further educated about the law, as well as to be able to learn how to safely handle firearms. So that way, if they choose to exercise this new privilege or right, depending on how you want to look at it, that they will be able to do so in the safest manner. So we plan on increasing the amount of activities that we avail the community to at the range. So that way people could be able to come out, get oriented, learn about the club, the different services that we provide, and in particular, how to go about responsibly executing on this this new ruling.
Right. And to can I piggyback off of Wayne? To add the training component, how do I put it? Okay, to make the decision to conceal carry leads to the decision to possibly use deadly physical force, right? I've been concealed carrying in New York City for 22 years. So at this time, I'm a big proponent of training for individuals who are looking to possibly get concealed carry permits. And that's what we're looking to provide as a club overall going forward.
Definitely knowledge, you know, and I hear people talk about, yeah, the Second Amendment, your gun rights. And I state in my communication, yeah, it's just like voting. You have the right to vote, doesn't mean you have to vote. That's your individual choice. But being in a situation where you're restricted a right that the Constitution says that you have, you know, I'm glad the fact the Supreme Court did state that it was, you know, it was unconstitutional. Now, obviously, as they say in the Marvel comics, with great power comes great responsibility, and that's where we come in. Getting that education, getting that knowledge, teaching people not just how to use the firearm, but how to avoid from using that firearm. You know, the conflict resolution side of it, just getting out of situations, and God forbid if you ever did have to use that firearm, you know, what are the legal ramifications of that? Educating the average person on Article 35, use of force, that being New York State's law on what you can and can't do regarding penal law. Any other feedback regarding education and this Supreme Court decision?
One thing I will chime in on.
Oh, let me.
No, my apologies. But no, I was going to say I will just add that as part of those regulations, or what I suspect will be part of the regulations, will be intense training, both classroom and, you know, range training before you're able to get that license. So I think it would be well placed for the organizations to beef up the training aspect, because I'm pretty sure that that is going to be the line of demarcation, that they're going to be able to regulate that, and they're going to probably heavily look towards a lot of hours in the classroom or at the range before you're allowed to carry. And there's just one more thing I wanted to say as far as the decision is concerned. One of the other things that is that the justices left kind of open-ended is this notion of sensitive places. What is it? It's not defined. They're allowed to look back at historical as to what a sensitive place would be. But as was noted in the dissent, a sensitive place might have been a courthouse 100 years ago, but what about a subway? So courthouses, schools, large places of public gathering, public transportation, sports stadiums, etc. What will be considered a sensitive place and the litigation that follows? Because you can be sure that the state will come up with its regs and definitions of what a sensitive place will be, and it will be challenged in the court. And so there are going to be a lot of legal battles to follow.
Yeah, as you build on that, large gathering places, Times Square. How do you really? How do you define? You can't go above 42nd Street and below 46. I mean, how are they going to define?
It is going to be challenging, and that is one of the frustrations, as always, when the Supreme Court issues an opinion. They usually answer one question, but open up several other questions.
Mm-hmm. And this is another open question for the group, and that I'm not clear on, and maybe if anyone happens to have an interpretation of this, does this open up opportunities for people who have pistol permits outside of New York City to be able to carry their firearm in New York City? Does anybody know that or understand that?
That is unclear. That is a good question. It's actually an excellent question. It's something that I was speaking with someone about earlier. As of now, the way New York City's laws are written, you cannot enter into New York City unless you have a New York City permit. I'm not sure, based on this decision, if that will allow everyone in New York State to enter New York City if they have a carry permit. I suspect that New York City is going to try to fight that and say that you have to have a New York City carry permit in order to enter into New York City. But that is unsettled yet.
Yes. I wonder if they're taking away the opinions technically of the judges of deciding whether or not you have the right to carry or not. I wonder if they're going to do like states like Utah, where it's governed by, or Florida, where it's the actual state that makes the decision versus it being individual county judges or sheriffs and so forth. It's going to be interesting how that plays out. Indeed. Soul Society, a lot of your members are New York City specific people that travel to the suburbs to receive training. How does that? How do you think that's going to play out? And what are your thoughts on that? Do you think you're going to get a wave of individuals coming from the city to your club, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, truthfully, the people who are traveling up to train with Soul Society are people who are already owners, right? So the ones who don't have firearm privileges, we provide weapons, we rent them out. So as far as, and a lot of it is long guns, because, you can't shoot a handgun without a permit. So that's where the tricky part comes in, because now you're going to have, I mean, in my opinion, I understand the whole 2A movement, and I understand the decision, but with everything, people say training, but it has to be credible training, So truly, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think this opens up a Pandora's box, and if it's not handled correctly, it's gonna be a problem. I really do believe that, because you have some people who want to carry for the sake of carrying, and once they get the firearm and do initial training, whatever's required, that's going to be it. And then you're going to have the people who's going to really delve deep into it and, be responsible. And those are the people that, I think those are going to be far and few between that take that approach, So as far as like us training, to be a problem. I think more people will probably train with a lot of different firearm clubs, you know, because now they have accessibility, they can move around freely. So, you know, I think that's going to open up opportunities, but which also opens up hack instructors, you know, given, you know, training that's not up to par, you know. So I think, you know, it's going to be a whole lot of things, and I guess it depends on where the decision goes and what restrictions they do put in place. But I think it's going to be a whole lot of like tentacles to deal with.
What's interesting about that is at a separation of 2 to 3 weeks of with the Supreme Court decision coming out, but at the same time, New York State creating a semi-automatic rifle permit process that's been written into law, and then of course the restriction on civilians carrying wearing a vest, whether you're going to the range or traveling from point A to point B, where you can't even wear a vest. It's interesting that as you talked about that Pandora's box and the mixed messages that are out there. Gahiji, what's your opinion on the current decision versus the decisions that were made on the changes of the rifle rules or vest rules in New York?
I think it makes it more confusing because in one aspect, you can carry long as you a shall issue state, but also too with long guns, you have to have a permit. You have to go through a whole stringent process to get that. So it's like there's no balance. And as well as with the bulletproof vest, they say that you it's going to be illegal to have soft armor, but it's okay to have hard armor. You know, so it's just like I don't know. Everybody just running to make laws, but not really sitting down and really hashing out everything. So it's more cohesive.
And I know that you know, as that logo that's behind you, you do a lot of kids type training. And I know nationally there's many organizations that sell actually bulletproof backpacks to kids. So I wonder if New York State, that would be illegal for the kids to have those backpacks or not.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question.
Damon, I noticed that Damon Wright. I noticed that you were shaking your head. Well, I saw a light bulb above your head. Talk to us.
Well, a few things going through my mind with that scenario, especially with the vest. The wording for that law has been convoluted and confusing since it came out. Some people are saying that it says you can't have it, but I believe I read where it says the purchase inside New York is restricted. Now, wording, as Juan can probably confer to, wording is everything. If you can't buy it, doesn't mean you can't have it.
So this said purchase versus possession?
I believe it said purchase of soft body vest, not body armor. And in talking with some people, I haven't been able to actually clarify the information, but they were saying that it was an old law that they kind of like copy and pasted, where the body vest they're talking about was a 1970s law where they were talking about a vest that stops 38 caliber and below, which we know everything that we wear today starts higher than that. But that also is something that's being hashed out as we go along. As you see, I think they changed a couple of those laws in the process since you wrote it in, what was it, 2 weeks ago Friday? That the initial writing from the Senate, and she signed it the following Monday. So
yes, opportunities. Let's build on that before we close out. Opportunities to your individual clubs, opportunities for our members, whether male, female, children, and so forth. Where are the opportunities here, Wayne?
Well, one opportunity I would say is for us to begin to start taking control of our own narrative. As we know, a lot of what has been getting put out in the media, in particular of late, is about the crime waves and the gun violence and all the negative aspects associated with firearms. However, there's, as we all know, everyone on this call, there's a whole other side. There's a sporting side to it. A couple members of our club do practical shooting, where they go out at the Long Island Practical Shooting Association and participate with hundreds of other Long Islanders and New Yorkers in competitive shooting as a sport. And although, you know, our team is the only team with people of color out there, it certainly shows that that in of itself represents opportunity, because by and large, we're not represented in many of these arenas. And so we're exposing more and more people from the city, from Long Island, to be able to get into that aspect of it. Trap and skeet shooting is another fun and entertaining way of exploring and using firearms. And as you mentioned, training women, training youth, those are all things that we feel we want to be able to continue to offer to avail to the community, so that way there are more options that people could be able to understand that there's a whole positive side of it. And of course, good old home defense, right? That's one of the main reasons that many people purchase. And the other aspect, as it relates to controlling our narrative, just within the past 48 hours, we've gotten multiple requests from major media outlets in New York City who want to talk to us all of a sudden about this issue, right? And so in that, we're able to, in the event that we choose and we get approval from our attorney to proceed and have that conversation with them, we're able to control the narrative in that sense and let people know about all the good benefits and all the positive aspects to responsible legal firearm ownership that you don't often hear about. So I'm glad that at least we're in a position to be able to educate the public about this other side of the two-way movement that exists.
Nice, nice. Donovan, are you still there?
Yes, yes, yes. I just stepped outside of this venue right now to try to catch tail end of the conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. What the question I was asking is, with the potential changes and with this decision that's recently made, what are the opportunities and benefits that may be available to your club?
I think Wayne kind of spoke very well upon things that we actually have been doing and we will continue to do. I think the emphasis on education, introduction and education, is going to be paramount now. You know what I mean? It's like, because now more people are going to be interested in how it works. What do you have to do? Because our whole methodology was to introduce, educate, and inform people of color how to legally, responsibly, and properly own and operate firearms. And I think that that's going to really show ground right now, because now people wonder, okay, is this going to be the old, you know, the wild, wild west? You know, now that other people can carry firearms, even though I kind of think on that, some people are looking at it from the wrong aspect, thinking that it's just anybody can conceal carry, and that's just not the case. It's not that just anybody, just, you know, whoever, you know, Joe Schmo could just conceal carry. It's still a process that's going to be in place that's going to allow them to do that. But I think having the proper training and being available to train properly, you know, intelligently, responsibly, and legally, I think that's what's going to take, is going to be the big thing. So I think, you know, just having more training opportunities, educational opportunities is just going to be the main thing. It's going to be the order of the day.
Okay, great, great. Does anyone else have any feedback on that besides training, education opportunities, and of course, increased safety and changing the image of the African-American shooter? Does anyone else see any other opportunities you'd like to add to this? Someone speaking? Yeah, whoever was saying something. Okay. Was someone speaking? Okay. All right. So whoever was, I think you froze. I think Gino froze. I think it was Gino trying to say a word. He's frozen. Gino, you're on the motor lawn? Where'd he go? Okay. You guys remember the thing on the internet? So yeah. So what I wanted to do was just do a basic closeout. There's wonderful, great opportunities available for all of our clubs. An opportunity for us to increase that education, that knowledge, that opportunity to have like-minded individuals getting together without being worried about how others will treat them, to be in a place where you're considered family, an opportunity where individuals can work together and fellowship together and just having a good time while enjoying the 2A environment. Our club website, hvnubiangunclub.com, is always looking for individuals who are in the Hudson Valley area that are looking to join our club. Wayne, can you tell us a little bit about memberships for your club? Are you guys still looking for new members? Are the doors open for that? And if so, how did someone contact you?
Yes, we generally hold open houses at the Nassau County Rifle and Pistol Range in Uniondale once a month. In fact, this coming Sunday, the 26th, from 2 to 4 p.m., we'll be holding a orientation to where we open it up to the public to be able to come in, learn about our club, the different services we offer. We also assist with the whole license and permitting process, by the way. Of course, people can do it on their own, but for those that are interested in being able to get support in doing it so they don't risk messing up the application or delaying it with errors and things of that nature, our club supports individuals with that service also. So we can be reached at nydfirearmclub.org. That stands for New York Diasporans Firearmclub.org. And our membership application is available on the website, as well as the requirements to become a member of the club. And we certainly encourage people to reach out to us, get more information, and see if this is for you. As was mentioned earlier, it's definitely just like concealed carry is not for everyone. Being in a firearm club is not necessarily for everyone. It can certainly, the part we didn't mention is how expensive it can be, right? When the average firearm ranging anywhere from $500 to $1,200, depending on if you're getting a pistol or a long gun, it's not a cheap hobby either, or a cheap lifestyle, I should say. It's certainly more than a hobby. And with the increasing prices of ammo, and we didn't even also talk about micro stamping and the fact that that is going to become a potential requirement in the future. It's going to change the game and change how one is able to enter the game. And we definitely won't get into the 1,000% tax on AR-15s. We'll stay away from that. We know how ridiculous that is. But that's probably a conversation for another time.
Okay. Donovan, let's hear a little bit about your club. How does someone contact you if they're interested in joining?
Yeah, we do have a website. Our website is Soul Society FC for Firearm Club.com. Website is there. We're actually also on Instagram at the same name, Soul Society FC. We're definitely open to members. We're actually having our very first open house, new member orientation on July the 2nd up at Blue Mountain Sports Center, at the gun range up there. We're running a range up there, so we're gonna have a day of activities. We're just getting the word out. So and we're just starting to spread it out. Matter of fact, just yesterday we actually officially announced it. So that's one of the things that we're starting to get the word out and about, and seeing. We get a lot of inquiries. People want to know how, where, and why, and what they need to do. And we're starting to get the word out slowly. I mean, obviously, we don't want to just open up the floodgates so any Joe Schmo could come in. Still want to have people vetted and properly educated and know what they're getting into, and see if they're really serious about what we're doing, because this is very serious, even though we're going to have fun in the process. And that's, primarily that's what we're doing.
Great. And I just want to end off with one question to Juan, and I'm going to end off there. Juan, just obviously a lot of rumors are going to move around. People are going to give their opinions based off of emotions and what other people are telling them, and so forth. And as an attorney, what advice would you give the average and ordinary person on how to navigate through what's about to come before them, whether it's the decisions, new laws, and so forth?
I would probably say, going back to that theme of education, kind of educate yourself first to the history of the gun laws. The decision that was just handed down is one of a handful, surprisingly, only a handful of decisions addressing the Second Amendment. And if you go back to one of the first ones, you will be quite shocked as to why and how that case was decided. And I'm talking about a case out of Louisiana. 18, forgive me, the date kind of escapes me at the moment, but regardless, there's only about 8 cases. Supreme Court decisions of consequence on the Second Amendment. And so I would say first, educate yourself, because it kind of mirrors the history of the country, and it's very telling. The second thing I would say is understand, just like everything else, it's not a black and white issue. There's a lot of gray area. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of things that are going to be coming out. As a former prosecutor, and dealing with New York City's police department for 14 years, you know, on that side of the ledger, there's going to be a lot of discussion as far as how do they deal with people walking around with firearms. It used to be that you saw someone with a bulge, and that was probable cause to stop. Is it going to be probable cause to stop now? There are a lot of different aspects to this decision going forward. So the more that you can educate yourself on the law, and like you said, Article 35, talking about self-defense, you know, the penal law of the state of New York, just there's so many different ways to educate yourself in addition to fire safety at the range. So I would say do that, because there are going to be a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, a lot of debates, and the more that you know and understand these nuances, the less you'll get caught up on the polarization of it just being a black or white issue.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Damon Finch, National African-American Gun Association, NAAGA.co. All right, Hudson Valley Nubian Gun Club, Downstate New York Diasporan Firearms Club, Soul Society. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Good night.
All right.